So I wanted to add a little more dimension to my Halloween decorations this year, and I was inspired to make some shelf mushrooms, hang on the side of the house. Well, that didn't work out. First, my artwork was, a little shoddy, and they look a lot more like rock formations than mushrooms. Second, Clicky, for the life of him, could not find a way to attach them to the sides of the house without punching holes. Before I hear the chorus of command strips, they didn't seem to adhere to the house even a little. The strips wouldn't even support that little white plastic hook. So it was time to pivot, and here we are, Glowstones. Now, I'll be using them for what they actually look like. They add, great depth and mystery to the garden, and, they add to the story and the texture of Mushroom Hollow. I'm Gardener Coo, and let's get into it. All right, the first thing you obviously need is the insulation. You can find this at Home Depot or Lowe's. I got lucky enough that I have a friend of a friend who was building a fireproof house because of California, and so they had some extra left over, so they gave it to me. One problem with it is extra wide, so I'm a little worried about that weight on the house because it's going to be sticking at 90 degrees, so I'm going to cut them in half, and while you're at Home Depot, buy the longest reciprocating saw blade you can find. Now, in preparation for cutting, you also want to wear a hat to keep the foam out of your hair. You want to wear a mask because if you don't want it in your hair, you don't want it in your lungs. And then, of course, you need to be wearing some boots because if this slips, you don't want to take off a toe. And then, of course, bring the pets inside. So we cut them in half, made a giant mess, and now it's time for sculpting. So you want to make sure you have one straight edge that you can attach to the house, and then you're just going to curve out all the corners of everything else. Just make it rounded. And then on these edges, you're going to just do a little scallop shape in and out. You don't have to be super precise. We're going to make most of the mushroom shape out of the paint. But then you want to curve this out. And if you have extra foam like I do here on the center, you can cut this with the reciprocating saw and round it out, and then it'll just look like a gill of the mushroom. Be sure to vacuum up the foam dust when you're done. You really don't want that getting into your garden or your pets eating it. So the next step is to paint these mushrooms with a white exterior paint. So camera snafu, and I forgot to film me priming, but you want to prime all of these blocks with Kills Mildew Primer. And it's going to eat up so much more primer than you think. Remember, these are foam blocks, so it's just going to suck up the primer. You want to do this for a couple reasons, but they all relate to water. So last year I painted all these beautiful Christmas decorations, but I didn't do the white exterior paint step, and they all got mildewy, and now I have to repaint them again for next year. Total waste of time and money and paint. You also want to do this because these foam insulation bricks are basically sponges. So if it rains or if it's foggy like it is often here, they're just going to absorb water like crazy, and that weight will help pull them off the side of the house. So you want to do everything you can to make them as waterproof as you can. And it also makes them a lot whiter, which is a better base for fluorescent paint. You always want to put fluorescent paint onto the whitest possible surface. All right, so if you have a giant puppy like me that happens to, step on one of your shelf mushrooms and you need to repair it, this is what you do. So take a bamboo skewer, the kind you use for barbecuing, and you want to cut it in, you want to snap it in half. Then you're going to stick them halfway into one side of the mushroom. And I'm going to use 3 here because I think 3 adds just a little bit more stability rather than 2. And then you can take your other mushroom